Yes, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the last thing that we had discussed about is the cell set, isn't it? And we have also discussed the cell theory, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So and did we discuss prokaryotes and eukaryotes?
Ma'am, we discussed a bit.
We discussed it
A bit.
a bit. Okay. See, just like how we divided the organisms into unicellular and multicellular depending upon the number of cells that are there in their body. Same way, there is another kind of division. We divide the organism into prokaryotic organism and eukaryotic organism. Now, prokaryotic organism and like this division is because of, you can say, the presence or absence of nuclear membrane. Now, the prokaryotic organisms, these are the ones that do not have the nuclear membrane. You understand the meaning of a membrane?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. So, in the prokaryotic organisms, the membrane is not present at all. And in the case of eukaryotic organism, the proper membrane and everything is present.
Yes,
So talking about the prokaryotes, so these are the organisms that do not have a membrane bound nucleus, meaning their nucleus is not surrounded by any kind of membrane. Okay. Their nucleus is not surrounded by any kind of membrane. With that being said, meaning their genetic material is naked. Apart from all of that, they do not have the membrane bound cell organelles also. And yes, I forgot to tell you, please switch on your video.
Okay.
Yeah. And the best example for a prokaryotic organism is a bacteria. Okay, a bacteria, the best example. Now, talking about the eukaryotic organisms. So, these are the organisms that they have a proper membrane bound nucleus, and along with that, they have the membrane bound organelles present in them. Examples for eukaryotic organism are humans, animals, plants, fungus, all of these. Okay, we are also eukaryotic organism. Now, with that being said, this is all there is as far as the introduction goes. Okay. Now coming on to the components of the cell. This is of prime importance to us. The components that are present in the cell. Now talking about the components. So the cell has plasma membrane, it has nucleus, and it has cytoplasm. Apart from all these three, the cell also has the cell organelles present in them. Now, talking about the first component, that is plasma membrane. Now, plasma refers to the fluid which is present inside the cell. Okay. And the membrane again means a covering, a layer. Okay. So, the layer through which the, you can say, plasma membrane is the layer which covers the cell. It is the protective in nature layer, and it covers around the cell. And what does it do? It protects the cell against the external environment. So sort of like it is primarily doing the function of protection. Now, the plasma membrane, it allows the influx, which means inflow, meaning things can come inside through the membrane, or efflux, meaning things can go outside through the membrane. So substance are able, any kind of substance which are smaller in size, they're able to pass inside and outside the membrane. So this tells us that, okay, the membrane has some kind of permeability present in it, right? Meaning it is permeable. It allows or it permits the substances to come in and to go out. So that is why the plasma membrane is very famously known as the selectively permeable membrane. Now, the next thing that we have to discuss with respect to the plasma membrane is the diffusion. Now, see, diffusion, it is the movement. Okay, it is the name of a movement. So diffusion is the movement of gases or atoms or molecules. In general, it is the movement of substances from a region of high concentration to the region of low concentration through the semi-permeable membrane. Okay. So the best example of diffusion that you're going to see is inside our body. Whenever, like, okay, which is the gas that we breathe in
Oxygen.
and which is the gas that we breathe out?
CO2.
CO2. Right. So this taking in of oxygen and giving out of carbon dioxide, this happens by a diffusion process only. Meaning, once, like during the process of taking in the gas, our body does not have enough oxygen. And in the atmosphere, there is an ample amount of oxygen present. So that creates a concentration gradient, because of which the gases from a region of higher concentration, that is the atmosphere, moves into the lower concentration, that is our body. Now, when we use the oxygen, we have to give out the CO2. Now, the CO2, that is the carbon dioxide, it has to move out of our body. So, inside our body, the amount of CO2 is really high, and outside it is very less. So, again, a concentration gradient is set up, because of which the CO2 from our body diffuses into the external environment. So, the best role of diffusion is in the exchange of gases or the gaseous exchange. Now, the most bizarre thing to know that is that water also follows the law of diffusion, meaning the movement from high concentration area to low, that is also followed by the water. But the only exception or a difference is that the movement of water is known as osmosis. You will not call it diffusion. It is known as osmosis. This is the process through which the water moves from a region of high concentration to the region of low concentration. Now, the most important factor that will be affecting the process of osmosis is the concentration of solute. See, a solute is a component of a solution. You've had lemonade, right? Now,
Yes.
if you talk about the lemonade or sugar syrup, so what is there? Water is there and sugar is there in that, isn't it? And when we mix them together, a solution is made. Okay. So in that, the sugar component of the solution is the solute, meaning the thing that you are going to dissolve is the solute, and the medium in which you are dissolving, here water, is the solvent. Water is a universal solvent. Okay. And then there can be alcohol and other liquid also, but always remember that the solvent amount will be the amount sort of higher than the solute, and the solute will always be mixed in the solvent, and then a solution will be made. Clear? Now, with that being said, we're going to talk about three situations or three kind of solutions: hypertonic solution, hypotonic solution, and isotonic solution. Now see, hypertonic solution, here we have to consider two conditions. We have to consider a cell and then an external environment. Okay. Now, what happens in this case if we talk about hypertonic solution? Now, inside the cell, normal water content, cytoplasm, all of these things are present. And in the external environment, in a hypertonic solution, what happens is that the external plate, let's just say there is a plate. Now, this plate consists of a very large amount of solute. Okay. So, what do you think? Like, according to you, if the amount of solute is very high in a solution, what will happen to the amount of solvent?
Ma'am, it will be less, and it will the solution will the solution will not dissolve in it.
Very good. The solvent will be less and there will not be any kind of dissolution happening. Now, if you take this cell, it can be a plant cell or it can be an animal cell. You take this cell and you put it in the plate. Now, what do you think will happen? The water inside the cell is a lot. The water outside the cell is very less. So, this creates a concentration gradient, isn't it? High to low. So now the water from the cell moves out into the external environment. And since the water moves out of the cell shrinks. So whenever someone asks you that what will happen to the cell if you keep it in a hypertonic solution, so you will say that the cell will shrink. Now just the opposite of this case is the hypotonic solution. Okay.
It
Now
will
in this,
swell.
yes, yeah, it will swell. Exactly. In the hypotonic solution, the external environment, it has less solute and more solvent. So since more solvent is present in the external environment, so the solvent from the external environment will move inside the cell, because of which the cell will swell up. So if you keep the cell in a hypotonic solution, the cell will swell up. And last is the case of isotonic solution. The word iso means the same. So in this case, the external environment concentration and the internal, the solute concentration in both the environment is exactly the same, because of which you cannot see the movement of water. Yeah. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So this is what hypertonic, hypotonic, and isotonic solutions are. Now, many a times the difference in between three of them can be asked. What what is the property, like what will happen to the cell if we keep it in either of these solutions? That will be asked. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ma'am, now can I note it down?
See, we are on a time crunch because I want to add you in the batch so that you can continue with the students. So for these notes, for you try to understand, I'll provide you the part that you are being left out of. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so now talking about the applications of these solutions. So the plants, they take in water or they absorb the water by this mechanism only. And also the mechanism of these solution also run in the freshwater organisms. Okay. Now talking about now this solution and everything. See, the cell can lose the water or cell can gain the water. Why? Because the cell has a plasma membrane that is permeable to that. That is the reason why you are studying these solutions under the heading of plasma membrane. Now moving forward, talking about what the plasma membrane is made up of. So the plasma membrane is made up of two major components. We have lipids and proteins. Now lipid means fats. Proteins you already know, right? So lipids and proteins, these are organic molecules. Organic molecules means they are found inside us also. So the plasma membrane is made up of those two components. Moving forward, we'll also talk about endocytosis. Now, the process is, see, endocytosis, endo means inside. Okay, endo means inside, exo means outside. Okay, so what happens? This is a process through which some organisms, some lower organisms, they can procure nutrition or they can take the food inside. Now, how? See, the endocytosis is the process of engulfing food particle from the external environment. Okay, meaning, and this mostly takes place in amoeba. You've heard about amoeba. They have a very irregular shape like
Yes.
this. Hmm. So what happens in amoeba is, like, for example, if this is amoeba and a food particle is near it, so what will it do? It will draw out false feet, that is pseudopodia, and it will sort of cover the food and then take it inside. So this is endocytosis, and this takes place in the case of amoeba, right? And this endocytosis is very commonly also known as ingestion. Ingestion means eating, but it's not actually eating. So endocytosis is clear. There is another word that is known as exocytosis. Now, what do you think will happen in exocytosis?
I I don't know, ma'am.
Try, guess. I know that you don't
It
know. That's why I'm
it
here.
will be outside of the body.
Exactly. Once the food has been eaten, I mean taken inside the body, the food has been used. Now the waste product, has to be thrown out of the body. It happens the same way, but not with the help of pseudopodia, but through the amoeba's body, exocytosis happens. Okay, exocytosis means throwing out the like waste products out of the cell. This is not in your syllabus, just to know, like you should know what does endo-exo means, because all throughout biology you'll find the same meaning of endo and exo. So with that being said, we have actually completed the plasma membrane. Now coming on to cell wall. Now plant cells, bacterial cells, and fungal cells. These three, plants, bacteria, and fungus. These three cells, they have additional layer covering the plasma membrane. And that layer is known as the cell wall. It is a very rigid layer, and this layer surrounds the plasma membrane. Okay. And this layer is present in plants, but always remember that it is absent in animals. Under no circumstance, cell wall can be present in animals, under no circumstance at all. Now, the cell wall, in the case of plants, it is made up of cellulose. Okay, cellulose. It is again an organic component. And because of this very reason, the cell wall of plants is known as cellulosic cell wall. It tells us that it is made up of cellulose. Always remember that animals do not have a cell wall. Now, what is the function of cell wall? So, what is the function of cellulose? Like why the cell wall is made up of cellulose? Because we initially have read that the cell wall is rigid, right? It is a rigid layer. Rigid means hard. And this cellulose is one such component of the cell wall because of which it is rigid. So cellulose provides structural strength to the plants. Yeah. All right. Now, the cell wall, apart from all of that, it protects or prevents the cell from bursting or collapsing. Like how we talked about hypertonic, hypotonic solution, right? So in that we were seeing that water was either coming out of the cell or it was going inside the cell. But that did not cause the cell to burst in the case of swelling or the cell to collapse in the case of shrink. Why? Because if it was a plant cell, then cell wall will prevent that from happening. Now, as I told you, apart from plants, there are other two organisms that possess a cell wall, that is bacteria and the fungi. Now, the bacterial cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan and the fungal cell wall is made up of chitin. Okay. Any doubts?
No, ma'am.
All right. Okay. I see that the rest of the students have also joined the class. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, everyone, switch on your videos. Also, one of you, please tell me what is the last thing that you people have written in your notebooks?
Ma'am, till chromosomes.
Till chromosomes you've written. Meaning what is chromosome you have to write or you have completed the whole entire thing?
Ma'am, we have only completed that first question.
First question, what is chromosome?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So let us quickly revise the nucleus part. Okay. So, okay, Tejas, cell wall is clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now we are hopping on to the next topic, that is nucleus. Now, nucleus is the control house of the cell. Okay. For example, you might have seen if this is the cell, right in the middle will be the presence of nucleus, right? Mostly, very commonly, you will see this. Now, nucleus is very commonly known as the control house of the cell. Why? Because it is solely responsible for overseeing or overlooking everything that the other organelles are doing. right? All the cell organelles that are there in the cell of any organism. So nucleus controls it. Now, this part of the this part of the cell that is known as nucleus, it is a darkly stained region. Meaning, what do we understand by darkly stained? It is that whenever we want to see cells, right? We see it under the microscope, we visualize under the microscope, and the cells normally are transparent. They are completely transparent. So, in order to see them properly, we color them, we stain them. Now, there are some cells that will take up a lot of stain, and there are some that won't take up a lot of stain. So, nucleus is the one that takes up a very dark stain. Okay, it picks up a lot of stain. Now, why do we stain cells? You people are clear with this thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. All right, moving forward. Some of the common dyes that we use to stain the cells are iodine solution, saffron in solution, methylene blue solution. All of these are dyes. Now coming on to the structure of the nucleus. So the nucleus has a double layered structure. Double layered means it has two layers surrounding it. One will be an outer layer and one will be an inner layer. Now the layer or the covering of the nucleus is called as nuclear membrane. Just like how plasma membrane was a covering surrounding the cell, and now the covering or the layer surrounding nucleus will be the nuclear membrane. Now this nuclear membrane, it contains pores. Pores are holes, tiny holes that are present in it. Now why? Because so that the nucleus will be able to transfer the materials inside the cell and outside the cell, because the membrane of nucleus is not permeable like plasma. Plasma membrane was permeable, so it was allowing things to come in and to go out. But the nuclear membrane, it contains pore. And why? So that it can let the things to come in and to go out. And those are known as nuclear pores. Now, coming on to what is actually present inside the nucleus, or what does the nucleus holds? So your answer should be chromosomes or DNA. Okay, both of the things. Now, what is a chromosome? So chromosomes, they are the rod-shaped structure. Okay, they are rod-shaped structures and they are present inside the nucleus. Now, they contain the information for inheritance. Now, what is that information for inheritance? That is the DNA. And DNA stands for, everyone should remember this. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. That is the full form of DNA. Okay. Students, what is the full form of ATP? ATP. I have not taught this, but still I want to see if someone knows. What is the full form of ATP? Does anyone know this? A, T, and P. What is the full form of this? None of you know this. The full form of ATP is adenosine triphosphate. This is the full form of ATP. Adenosine triphosphate. Okay, we'll talk about this more when we come to mitochondria. But yeah, so talking about the chromosomes, so they contain the DNA. So you can say that the chromosomes are the physical carriers of DNA. Physical carrier means if this, like usually the chromosome structure is like this. So physical means just like this. So they'll have DNA present all over them. So that is why they are the carriers of DNA. Now talking about what is inheritance, like we said that the chromosomes, they contain the information for inheritance. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is the way, or you can say it is the process through which the characters, the traits, the DNA is passed on from the older generation to the newer or younger generation. Meaning the traits or the characters that are passed on from the parents to the offspring, from the grandparents to the parents, and then from the parents to the offspring. So this is what is known as inheritance. And inheritance can be done only and only when the DNA will be present, or else it will not be done. Okay. So inheritance is the passing of traits or characters from the parents to the offspring through the process of sexual reproduction. What is sexual reproduction? So this is the type of reproduction in which two parents are involved, and it happens by the fusion of a male and a female gamete. Clear? These gametes,
Yes, ma'am.
they are one gamete is male gamete and the other gamete is a female gamete. Okay. Now, the chromosomes, they contain the information of inheritance of characters in the form of DNA molecule. So they have all the information. For example, if you were to look like your father or if you were to look like your mother, that actually happens because of the chromosomes that passes on the DNA to you. You may have some DNA coming on from your father, or you may have some DNA coming on from your mother. So that varies. How many of you resemble your mother? You have a resemblance in your face like your mother. How many of you? You don't know that also? This I can't teach you. You have to tell me. Do you resemble your father, or do you resemble, like, you look like your father or you look like your mother? Oh, you don't look like either of them. That may also be the case. You can say that also, ma'am. I don't know. I don't look like either of them. Is that the case with all of you? That is also not the case. Then there is no other option. Are you people aliens? I hope not. I hope I'm not teaching aliens. Okay, Tejas, you resemble your father. Okay. I also resemble my father a lot. What about others? You people still don't know? Okay, now you look at your parents and then you look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, and you tell me in the next class what you like, whom do you resemble the most? Anyway, so no matter whom you resemble, but that resemblance, that passing of characters and traits, that happens because of the chromosome. And the chromosomes, why? Because they carry the DNA. Okay. Now, talking about what the chromosome is made up of. Now, every chromosome is made up of two things, DNA and proteins. It has a lot of proteins present in it, and the DNA, of course, is present. Now, see, every DNA has that unit or has that part which is the functional unit of it. Just like how cell is the functional unit of life in general, isn't it? Neuron is the functional unit of nervous system. Nephron is the functional unit of excretory system. Same way, DNA also has a functional unit, and that is gene. You people have said like we get these genes from this, not genes, not the pant, the gene, Gene, gene. Okay, so gene is the functional unit of the DNA. Any doubts up until now? Hmm? Any doubts? Okay,
Uh,
okay, good. Now, remember, whenever we try to study the nucleus, its shape, its component, we do it in two different times. We do it when the cell is not dividing, and then we see it when the cell is dividing. But the best result or the best findings that we can get is when we look at them when the cell is not dividing. So remember, whenever the cell is not dividing, the DNA is present as a part of chromatin material. It is entangled. Have you seen, like, have you seen a ball of wool? Everyone has seen that? Okay. Now, if you take that ball of wool and you open it throughout, and then you just like pick it up like that. Do you see how tangled that is? Now, if I were to ask you to straighten it out, it will be so difficult, isn't it? So imagine chromatin material is just like that. They are present just like that. Okay. So now after, see, this is how I've drawn it just to illustrate. See, this is the nucleus. Now inside the nucleus, they are present like tangled mass. They are tangled. This is what chromatin material is. But this is the case when the nucleus of the cell is not dividing. Now, when the cell decides to divide, when it decides to divide, then these chromatin, which were like jumbled and entangled, they start getting organized, and they get organized into a structure called as chromosome. Okay. And now talking about the chromosome, so it is like one part, you can say it is the thing that we can see very clearly. We can see its arms, we can see what are the parts of. Now, talking about one chromosome, always remember that one chromosome is made up of two chromatids. For example, it was like in a ball of wool, like structure, entangled. Now they started slowly to separate and to start getting organized. So all of my fingers resemble different, you can say, chromatids. Now two of them come together and bind. So this is one chromatid, this is another chromatid. They will come together and bind like this. And the point of their contact, meaning the point, this point, wherein they are getting attached onto, that is, like, you can say they are getting joined or they are getting attached because of centromere. Okay, so every single chromosome is made up of two chromatids joined together at the center with the help of centromere. It is a circular structure that joins the two chromatids. Clear? Any doubts up until now, students? Okay. All right. Now you people can note down. Also, students, you can just like wait for, let's just say 5 minutes till Tejas will write down this much, and then you people can continue together. Okay. Also, students, while you are noting down, you can switch off your video, and when I'll start teaching again, you can switch back on your videos. Yes, done, Tejas.
Yes. I'm done.
Yes, now all of you can note it down.
Ma'am, can you scroll down?
Everyone's done?
Ma'am, last.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you scroll down?
Everyone's done?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you scroll down?
Everyone's done?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Tell me once you're done.
Ma'am, done.
Ma'am, can you go down?
Okay, everyone's done till here?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, very good. All right. Okay. Switch back your videos. Now see this thing. When we talk about the structure of the nucleus, right? So in that we see that the chromosome, that one chromosome is made up of two chromatids and they are joined together at the center with the help of centromere. Now let us see in depth about, and see if you just separate the chromosomes, you can see if you separate the chromatids, so they would look like this. Okay, so you should know how they look like. Now, talking about the chromatin, so to say it in the language, it is the state of DNA when the cell is not dividing. Okay, then only you can find the chromatin, or else you cannot find the chromatin in the cell. Now, talking about the functions of the nucleus, like what role does the nucleus has to play? But before that, let us look at, see, you people know that the cell has cytoplasm, isn't it? Everyone knows this?
Yes, ma'am.
Hmm. Same way, the cytoplasm which is present in the nucleus, we call it as the nucleoplasm. Okay, it is the semi-fluid like structure which is present inside the nucleus. Now, nucleus, it has a double membrane structure. Now, the nuclear membrane, as we remember that the nuclear membrane, if it is present in the organism, we call it as the eukaryotic organism. And if it is absent in the organism, we call it as prokaryotic organism. Now, coming on to the functions of nucleus. So, the nucleus, it plays a central role in cellular reproduction, or the other word for cellular reproduction is cell division. Without nucleus, cell division cannot take place at all. Now, this cell division is the process by which a single cell will divide and form two daughter cells. Okay, it will give rise to two daughter cells, and the DNA or the chromosomes will be distributed in between these two daughter cells. Apart from that, the nucleus controls the functioning of all the cell organelles. It regulates the division of the cell, and of course, it contains the chromosome. The chromosome, the DNA is present inside the nucleus. So if nucleus will not be there, it will not be present. So this is what, like these are the functions of nucleus. Any doubts up until now? All right. Okay, students. So first you note this down. You can also, like, you should draw how I've depicted the chromatids and the chromosome. You should draw it so that you don't have any confusion further. Okay. Yeah, now you people can note it down.
Ma'am, can you scroll down?
Everyone's done?
No,
Yes,
ma'am.
sir.
Tejas, the class will end in 5 minutes. Actually, 10 minutes. Okay, you people draw this also. Okay. Done, students?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.